Okay, guys, the last month or so, I've seen a lot of highly regarded thought leaders, social media influencers, um, condemn Europe, criticize Europe for not having air conditioning infrastructure. I really kind of scratch my head about what they mean there. You know, my birthplace, city I was born in, Clarksburg, West Virginia, has been going through a massive infrastructure replacement. A lot of its public infrastructure was built over 100 years ago. It was not properly maintained. It's in dire need of replacement. And they've been doing that. They've been replacing water lines, sewer lines, gas lines, digging up the streets. And when they do that, I don't believe they've dug up one single refrigerant line. Air conditioning infrastructure is just a word or a term that doesn't make any sense, to me at least. Because there's no municipal air conditioning plant the way there's a municipal water plant or a sewer plant. Air conditioning is a private affair. Presumably, these media influencers own homes, and they would know very well that outside their home they have a device called an air conditioning unit that costs, I don't know, $7,000 to $8,000 minimum, and then all the ductwork in their house, which they paid for, not the government. And in no place in the United States that I've lived have air conditioning ever been required by law. You know, if you don't have running water, you don't have sewage in your house, the government can evict you from your house, in the United States at least. If you don't have electricity, they can do it. If you have heat, they can do it. Air conditioning, it's a luxury. Now, do a lot of people, most Americans, have air conditioning? Yes, so it's a free market choice. Europeans have that same free market choice, and in Southern Europe, air conditioning is more popular. And in Northern Europe, it's less popular. And if you look at the latitude of much of Europe, well, let's just say where I'm at is at the same latitude as Newfoundland. They've made a decision not to invest in air conditioning infrastructure. The free market has done that. That's not to say, however, that cities and governments haven't invested in cooling infrastructure. Right behind me is an example of cooling infrastructure. When I first moved here 3 years ago, it looked like that over there. It was a parking lot, and that parking lot made every one of those buildings, every one of the apartments in those buildings hotter. It made the entire city hotter because the cool air comes down off the Taunus Mountains that direction, comes right down the street, and it was then baked. But now they start replacing parking lots. You get the cool air, and it just meets more cool air, and it just keeps flowing right into downtown, and it makes every building along here cooler. You could say that's a form of air conditioning infrastructure. And I've actually seen a few people try to talk about the public debate about air conditioning in Europe is settled. And they say this as if they're urbanists or urban planners. I follow actual urban planning, urbanism in Europe to the extent that I'm able, not speaking the languages. There's been no real debate about air conditioning in the sense of compressor units, heat pumps with Freon refrigerant. That's not a debate. The discussion has moved to this kind of air conditioning infrastructure. Trees, parks, reducing cars and fumes. I'll holler at you later.